All right. Agine Ushlach, to Fáilte Rót go léir a nocht ar son Trasna na Tíre. Good evening, everyone, and you're all very welcome tonight to Trasna na Tíre. My name is Conor Dullahan, and I'm very proud to be part of this group, bringing you some brilliant talks, and tonight being no exception. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd just like to remind everybody, if you have comments or any questions for Michael, just feel free to drop them into the chat box and we'll get to them at the end. So tonight we're joined by Michael Fortune. Michael grew up on the East Coast, Wexford, and has been absolutely instrumental in reigniting the current interest in folklore belief and tradition. For this talk, Michael will bring you on a walk in the May Dew, where you'll hear first-hand accounts of the traditions he grew up with, and some of those that he's recorded and observed. So, Michael, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, Conor. So listen, how are you? Will I start?
Yeah, please, go ahead. You're grand.
Great, lovely. Listen, how are you all doing? How are you, everyone? Hello from County Wexford. Listen, I'm going to do a bit of a talk with some slides for you. And I'm going to start off first by sharing my screen with you. Yeah, I'll share my screen. It'll get me going, right? And I'll go share. And can you all see that? You sure can. Conor can see it if there's a problem, right?
Yeah, you're grand.
Lovely. Listen, I suppose before I start, I'm going to give you a little bit of background to who I am and where I'm coming from. I'm up here now in northwest Wexford. As Conor was saying, I grew up on the east coast of Wexford, an area called the Mackimoors. It was North Wexford was kind of a Gaelic territory. There was a bit of a Norman influence up along the coast, much different in comparison to South Wexford, which was predominantly a lot more Anglo-Norman, Old English, Anglo-Norman. So here was an interesting one because it was eventually planted, but there was a kind of an identity that never left the area. And if you look at the county systems in Ireland, you look at classic things around counties, Wicklow and Carlow and neighbouring counties here. But all along the borders of North Wexford and South Wicklow, the there's a headset or a kind of a mindset, if you want to call it, where that county border doesn't cut off. Now, certain counties we cut off clearly. Wexford and Kilkenny is a very clear divide, and that goes back to even goes to Hurling Fields. But all around the South Carlow border, South Wicklow, just that alignment, and that goes back to McMurray, it goes back to the old Gaelic headspace, and that raised its head in 1798. It raised its head during the Fenian times, Land League, and right up to 1916, and so it's always been there. I'm going to start can you all see me, folks? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction about where I'm coming from. I'm not sure if you can all see me. I'm sure you can. You can see me all. So I'm going to
Michael, we can see you. It basically, once you're on the screen share, you'll be up in that top right corner.
So basically, okay, I'm going to share my screen again here with you folks and get started, right? So I will. He says. Sorry about this, folks. 1 second. Technical. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen here again with you. I apologize for doing this, for starting off in a bad. Okay, here we go. Okay, now listen. So listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an hour talk around May folklore, May traditions. I suppose for me, May is a powerful month because it's one of the kind of principal calendar dates in the year. Halloween is the next one. I find in my area of work that I get most folklore around the month of May and around Halloween, May in particular. So what I do is, for I suppose about 20 years, I've been recording folklore and folk belief and traditions, but recording on film. And recording in ways with the idea that I am always interested in sharing what I record. Now, we're in a great stage now, so much material, we can go searching online, we can find stuff on different archives at the school's folklore scheme. But back in the late 90s, when I was kind of interested in folklore, I came from a background where I went through art college, but like so many people, I suppose, in this part of rural, so many, my own relations were in our part of rural Wexford. We were farm labouring background. So very few of us went to college. They don't go to art college. So people dropped out of school. My mother and father probably left school 14, 15, younger, 12, 13, I'd say my mother was, and went to work for local farmers. So education came along then, or free education came along, and I suppose the bar rose for people. And we were given other options rather than just to emigrate over to England to work. Probably a lot of time people never came back home. So those things happened. They were mad change within the whole rural society. So technically, I suppose, the last of the peasants, really, if you want to put it that way. But what happened within those communities and within those people in relation to neighbours of mine, traditions and beliefs survived. And things that you just took for granted, things that you did. And I suppose until you got older, you realised that they were special. And especially as you get older and older, you begin to realise, oh, hang on, they were very different. And one of the things, I suppose, coming through art college with me, one of the foundations that I was always interested in was interested in people. I was interested in place and how we inhabit that space, and how all those, there's loads, it's full of layers, it's full of contradictions, it's a colour, it's not black and white. And with an interest in folklore, I suppose I could see that there was a kind of removal of people, and I still see it to this day. I see people doing papers on, and there's nothing wrong with it, people going off to do a paper over in Helsinki, or going on something down in Spain, or going over doing a paper on particular folkloric tradition. But I kind of felt that there was removal of people, and maybe that was a kind of an art background training that I had, or maybe it was a kind of something that I had in my own mind, that I always felt people were really important, and that full circle was really important. I didn't want to be a person who would work in the area of folklore, who would record and just put into an archive, and only a certain type of people would access it. To me, tradition wasn't fixed either, and there was loads of complexities to it. And sometimes that I find in Ireland, we have an awful habit sometimes as well of putting this kind of it's like a filter, this kind of Celtic mysticism filter put out of our stuff, which which is grand. It's kind of new agey West Cork kind of late 60s vibe off it, and it's still there, So the people that I came from, and the voices that I heard, and the stories and the things that I heard were really important to me. And they were really important to me where I grew up in Wexford, or I could be dropped into Donegal, and they were still equally as important to me. So people were always really important. So I started to use tools that people said kill folklore, television. Now, to some degree, television did put an end to social gatherings and stuff like that. It kind of pull people in a different direction. But I started to use them as just tools to record. And I was interested in people, I'll get onto the May stuff in a while, but I was interested in people's accents. I'm interested in people's mannerisms. I was interested as well when you're reading an account, a folkloric account in a book about something happens, can be very factual. You're losing those lovely mannerisms. Irish people have an awful habit, and won't show you today, but I'll show you in other cases where they'll tell you something for a fact and they'll wink at you at the same time. Right, and you'll know then that there's a little bit of play, and there's always a bit of play, and it's the only way that stuff is going to survive. I.e., them stories or those accounts of men getting lost in fields, or lads getting taken by the banshee coming after someone. Half of them are, they're bits of truth stretched, but there's a lovely human characteristic to them, which is really, really important, and we should never lose sight of that. So I started to use video, so it captured all those kind of lovely those things with those aspects of people's lives. So for 20 years, myself, my other half, Aileen Lambert here, we have a practice where we're living remotely and rurally out here in County Wexford, and we're happy out to be doing what we're doing. And we could be working anywhere around the country. We don't travel as much as we used to now because we've got 3 little kids. But for years, we'd go and be going to drop into Neen up in North Tipperary for 3 months, and you'd work on a folklore collection project. And then you'd screen it back. This is back in the age of DVD, and you'd screen it back in the local hall or the parish. And in some ways, there were monumental shifts because people started to talk about God, start talking about folklore and belief and traditions again. Because my grandmother at home was 103 when she died in 2015, born in 1912. So I was getting accounts from her preschool's folklore scheme, and she was able to tell me accounts, but she'd tell me accounts, but you'd have to go looking for them. She'd never come forward with them. Because so if I was off recording somewhere up in Laois somewhere someday, and I come home, God, someone was telling me about, say, cure for fowls and cattle's feet. She says, I could have told you that, she says, but she wouldn't, because she didn't see a value in it, or didn't see, why would you be interested in that? So there was a kind of I just kind of thought it was a kind of a, people didn't value it, or didn't see it themselves. And that was kind of general across the board. Even a lot of our May traditions, the May bush and things like that I found here, there was a kind of drop off in the 60s. When you looked around the world and there was a kind of a folk revival. In some cases here, like you may have had a folk revival in some of the cities like Dublin, you had bands like the Dubliners, and you would have had the Clancy's in the 50s and Clancy Brothers and that kind of stuff, in folk music revival. And you would have had people probably interested in certain things. But like really, people on the ground, they were dropping them. They were dropping them because we're moving into joining the EU, and we didn't want to be seen as backward. And I found that an awful lot. So it's taken a little bit of a while. And as I was talking to Conor earlier, it's only a light dusting. to get rid of that sheen that's on a lot of our lives now, and we can get back to that stuff. And to me, like, whether the beliefs that I'm going to show you and traditions I'm going to show you are the best I can show you from the people that I've met, the truest form, right? They're not they're not necessarily kind of revived or hippy dippy things. They're actually real people with them, whatever. And sometimes people don't value them, but they'll still tell you a story. Well, this is what I was told. I mightn't believe it, but but I kind of tend, it's a funny one with that kind of old recording, that side of it. But I won't go. I'll get sidetracked completely. So there's a body of work, loads on video. In the last couple of years, we started to record, and for years we'd share them deliberately back in spaces where the communities in which folklore came from. This was down in Limerick City in 2004 and 5. It was a little collection we worked in a school called the Banshee. It was called the Banshee lived in a handball alley, because there was a handball alley and all the kids said that the Banshee lived in it. So we got a ton of folklore, urban folklore, contemporary, all the layers of traditional folklore, layered with contemporary living and contemporary life in that part of Limerick City, and the handball alley was one of them. So we do screenings back in spaces, like directly in the communities, maybe sometimes in galleries, as a Project Art Centre, or in little like auditoriums in museums, or back in village halls. Village halls were a great thing. And we didn't mind that. I suppose that was our art background, I suppose, as well, that you conceptually framed your process by collecting, recording and sharing, recording and sharing. And that was your audience. That's how it served. A couple of years ago, I decided, I didn't decide, it was on, my other half was on Facebook here, and I was looking at our page, and she goes, will you ever get fick off and get your own page? So I set myself up a Facebook page, and it changed. Within a couple of weeks, it changed dramatically for me, in the sense that I would start putting up little tiny clips that I would have recorded, and people would see them and people could relate to them. And this was material that you wouldn't have got on RTE, you wouldn't have got on local radio, maybe on TG Cahir, a possibility, but there's no other way. So there was an area, a very, very niche area, where I was able to get in to show work that I would have had maybe recorded over the past 15 years, and constantly even recording work that I would record. I'm constantly recording. I've got a mobile phone here, and I'd have big cameras that I'd record on for interviews, but a mobile phone, if I'm out and about, I will hear something and I'll grab straight away, I will record it, and then I can edit it up within minutes, and we share it and a conversation start. And videos go from average from anything from 5,000 up to 1 million or 2 million, right? Depending on the content, right? So you're talking average, you're getting from 5 to 15,000 views on a video that you put up, and then you put up a second one the next day. So there's a real niche there's an audience, an appetite for that kind of material. One thing that I loved about it as well was it bypassed the big players. And I've always said this: if the content is good, and if the material is the material, people will engage it in their own way. So you will have people who come from academia, you will have people who are coming from the neo-pagan kind of side of stuff. You will have people who are farmers, farm labourers, hairdressers, sheep farmers, whatever they are, they'll come at it as well. So that's one thing we found, where we're able to get straight into the pockets of people who wouldn't normally be able to get into the pockets of, and that kind of reinvigorated a sense and a connection to story and things like this, and things that were important to people, because we must never forget that we've been in fifth gear in Ireland now for the last 20 years. We're losing accents like new time. Young ones are born in Roscommon and born up in Louth or born in Wexford, and straight away they're picking up. Before it was kind of West English accents, but now they're picking up kind of Anglo English accents, and loads of my YouTube accents. Now I know accents change here and there, but there's a sense of ourselves that we can throw away very easily to make it look like it's progress. So I think people were very aware of that, and even sad times like this are making people reflect a little bit more. But so that was a game changer. Also a game changer for us in the sense that we could put a video, in our case here in Wexford, a huge connection to Newfoundland, South Kilkenny, South Carlow, Waterford and South Tip, massive connection to Newfoundland. And we were able to get straight into the pockets of the people in the Irish communities there. And the amount of material I've recorded as a result of that it's mind blowing, right? So that's that. So it allows me to share stuff, right? And all this stuff, ever since I've been doing this in the last 4 or 5 years, that's all the calling cards I've been getting for any kind of national media stuff. But still, you give me, this is my heart. This is where I actually you can see the impact. You could do a PhD alone on some of the threads. I put up a post and you see the threads coming back about what people said, oh, I did that, my mother did that, or here's the version I heard. And that's what's really, really interesting. So that's where I'm coming from, right? And I'm way over time as it is, right? Listen, what I want to talk to you is about May. So I hope you hear where I'm coming from. May, where do you start with May? Jesus, lads. My mother on the 1st of May, you get nothing on the 1st of May, she said. She said, you give away nothing on the 1st of May. May was the start of the year. That was out in Ballygarton, County Wexford. You give away your luck for the year. And they said if you went to get milk off someone or off a neighbouring farmer, they wouldn't give you milk on that day. It was a no-go. You'd give away your profit for the year. So May was the start of it. It was one of the calendar quarter dates, as said in the kind of the flyer going out. It was a principal date. It was the start of the summer. That went into the 1st of August, which is start of August was Lunasa. 1st November was or Sound. The night before was going into the winter. And again, back to St. Bridget's Day, Rimble, just the 1st of February. So those were the four principal kind of 4 quarter dates, and there were other bits in between, but they were the kind of principal ones, right? We did a big event in the National Library back in 2017, all on this. So you see the flyer there for it. It was called A Walk in the May Dew. One of the things which I found actually was a fine thread were these eggs. Holly, Christmas time, there's actually a fine line between Christmas and the 1st of May. Was one of the things my mother always grew up with, and I came across in Donegal and other counties as well. The holly was always kept up after the 6th of January. You'd always keep a sprig of holly up and use that holly then to light the fire come Shrove Tuesday or Pancake Tuesday. And that was the time when you'd feasted before the start of Lent. And that was the time you used up all your eggs. And for most people, you didn't eat any eggs then over the course of Lent until Easter Sunday. And you went out gugging or looking for eggs on Holy Saturday, and ate a pile of eggs on Easter Sunday. And then from there, what happened is people would hang on to the duck eggs and the hen egg shells, and they would keep them up for their May bush. And so it mostly was young girls that this, and people still do it today. Our girls are doing it here, and neighbours are doing it still. So you'd hang on to the eggshells, and you'd put them on your May bush. And I'll run through that with you then. And then you'd burn your May bush, or sometimes you'd burn it around May Day. Some more times you'd hang on to it until 23rd of June and burn it, let it off then on St. John's Eve. Where I grew up, this is a cutting from a paper where I grew up. I'll show you where the May bush tradition. I suppose I'll start off with that. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to show you this slide, and I'm going to show you a video. This is the area where I grew up. It was called the Macklemores, and the May bush tradition was always very strong there. The May bush tradition was mostly Leinster, bits of East Connacht and Ulster. Well, you had different variations of May boughs or May flowers further in a lot of the western counties, but it was a predominantly Leinster, South Ulster tradition, East Connacht maybe, and maybe East Limerick, parts of there. So sometimes we start thinking traditions in Ireland, we always buy that kind of notion that everything's out in the west, and sometimes I find it completely wrong. I always irritated me growing up on the east coast of Wexford, which is where, if you can see my mouse here, just here. The layers of traditions we would have had from the Normans through the Norse, through the Old English, through New English, and all those layers would have been coming in through from mainland Europe. And our connections actually you'll find multiple layers along this part of the country, more than the West, but the classic narratives out there, you have to go to the West to get it. And we start to believe that too. We start to believe that was maybe a bit of a national narrative put out, and it's still there, this idea, it's tied in with tourism now. And I'm not knocking anyone in Galway, Mayo or Donegal, far from it, but it's just sometimes we find sometimes that we believe it's somewhere else. And even internally within our own counties, we believe here in Wexford, in North Wexford, because everything was written about. So what happened was a couple of academics went out to South Wexford, and then over maybe the last century, their students followed them, and their students followed them. So you build up the beaten furrows, and then you build up these narratives. And sometimes those narratives are very hard to shake off, I find. So then you'll have internally in counties here in Wexford, I found, you'd ask people about certain things. No, we wouldn't have that. You'd have to go down to South Wexford for that. And you'd realise it's there. I've come across it. Kilkenny is a classic example. I've been told by more people, you get no folklore in Kilkenny. And there's a ton of it there. If you only went looking, there's a ton of it there. So anyway, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to share a new screen with you to show you some videos and let you listen to people talking, not me talking for a while. It's a little bit off and I can't hear you, but we'll have to live with that, right? So I'm going to stick
Michael, I'll come in now and again if you need a hand, but no, you're coming across great.
Great, good stuff. Come here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a lovely collection from recorded in Wexford around May folklore and May traditions, recorded in 2005 and 6. I'm going to stick it on for you. I'll make it as big as I possibly can. But
you couldn't whitewash in May. Couldn't stay on the wall. So you have to whitewash then in either April or June or July, whatever month you want to whitewash. But if you whitewashed in May, the hens wouldn't lay. If it was a hen house, And if they didn't lay it, to be all rotten. You'd never get you used to sit the hens that time. So there be no use to sitting the hens, the eggs, because they'd be all rotten. And if you don't know what the cow house, the cows that have fairy calves, and you couldn't do it their house. And if you don't know what the horse would die if you were ploughing or harrowing or out in the field working with them. So you couldn't think of doing it. No, you could work April, this is the best month.
Always on the May mornings, 1st of May, everyone out around the mountainside did always got up really early and went out and wished everybody good luck. Whether there was anybody around them or not, they always wished the neighbours all around good luck. But if you went that morning, then you always went to any farmers or anybody that had cows or any kind of stock or anything, and you wished them all good luck. But if there was a churn there, you had to catch it and give it so many dashes of the dash or the turnover or whatever it was for to wish him good luck, because if not, you took the look of the butter with you.
You didn't churn on the 1st of May because the fairies would take the butter and the butter would never turn into butter. You could churn all day and it wouldn't turn into butter because to be the 1st of May and you didn't churn on the 1st of May.
If a neighbour called, you'd have to give them a go of the churn, because if not, they could spirit away some of your butter, you know. So you'd give them a go ahead the way that you'd kind of neutralise them. Yeah.
On May mornings years ago, if people were, say, years ago in the country, you know, the neighbours come around to get a pint or 2 pints of milk, you know, just in a can. And that you're not supposed to sell any milk or have a May morning. There's unlucky. That your cows won't profit for the year and things like that. And
in our place above, never allowed the cows until the 1st day of May, and they had the little fire, and they had to drive the cows through the fire every May, and because then the fairies wouldn't milk the cows in the field.
They said you wouldn't marry in May, you drew the day. That's all I don't know, like, if there's any, but that was a saying, like, if you got married, you would have no luck. Things wouldn't go right anyway.
You don't take the paintbrush in your hand in May to do anything.
No, you never whitewash in May. No, 1st of May.
Yes, from the 1st of May to the 1st of June. You don't whitewash in May. You whitewash all the luck away.
But I don't know, I've seen people doing it. And
I've seen that, and if
I made any difference.
Think of that. But I know a woman, and my God, and 5 years down the line, if something was to happen in that woman's house, she couldn't have better luck. I seen her whitewashing in May. She'd go back and she'd point back to that.
Yeah,
that, so she couldn't have it. I seen her whitewashing in May. And that would be her belief.
And May morning, the girls used to go out and they get the dew off the grass and they wash their face with it. And they'd have lovely complexion for the following year. The whiter you wear that time, the better. Now you have to be all brown, but that time you had to be lovely and white.
But people collected the first drop of rain and made the first. There was a cure in that. The first drop of rain. Did you ever hear that? Yeah. We used to keep that in the bottle, which was a cure in it. Yeah.
Isn't that lovely? Just gorgeous material. Not because I regard it, because the material is lovely. I'm trying to find my photos now for you. Yeah, and share again with you. So there were lovely elements. Now that's just little collection. So that's the way I would record. You'd maybe produce an hour-long film, and you'd have different sections broken into different sections. There were lovely bits in there. Loads of stuff around your milk and your butter, and about protecting your milk and your butter. They were your valuable goods back then, lads. And we're not talking long ago, you know. We're talking 60s, 50s, 60s. You know, things have changed. Sometimes it's hard to fathom the change has gone in Ireland in a short amount of time. You know, since joining the EU, since the late 60s, 70s, massive changes. You know, but those things are there. They're just below the surface within people, and that's all within living memory of those people there. So milk and butter were important. So things like the Maybush. Anytime I'd record people talking about putting up the Maybush, it was all around protecting, keeping the fairies away, right? Other things were lovely. They'll crop up again when I'm talking. Little bits and pieces were your profit. The fire. It's amazing that woman out in your screen out near me, that she remembers this man running the cattle through the fire. So there were 2 fires and the cattle would be drove through them with the idea that it would stop the fairies milking the cows in the field. So you're not talking 1840s here, lads. You're talking 1940s, 1950s. And that's what's kind of special here. There's amazing material out there still. And one thing as well, the classic story about milk, and May was, they said the fairies built in the field. That stopped the fairies taking the milk from your cows. The classic one was the hare, where there'd be a hare, you'd up in the May morning and you'd go outside in the field, and this story is repeated all over the country. Same here in County Wexford, and there'd be a hare out in the field sucking the milk from the cow, and the farmer would have a gun and he'd shoot the hare, and they'd shoot the hare in the hip, and the hare would run into a house, and when they'd go into the house to knock on the door, and an old woman would come out bleeding from the hip. So this hare was this kind of shapeshifter. She could turn. And the queer thing is, I've recorded older people talking about hearing that story when they were younger. But also I worked up with a group of young travellers up in Dublin, mostly Wexford travellers, Wexford background, living up in Dublin 3 years ago, the back of the Beacon Hospital of all places. And young girls in their early 20s come out with that same story. And they told me the story as if it was fact that it happened to one of their uncles. They were off, they were after hares, and someone fouled a hare. And the same thing, whenever when the hare was hurt. And then when it went back out and they were leaving the field, there was an old woman bleeding from the hip standing at the gate. So those stories kind of live on and twist in their own kind of way. And I'm not condoning any kind of form of hair coursing, but that's the story that I heard. So that's kind of interesting. The Maybush is funny. The Maybush is almost, again, we've helped get the Maybush back up and running here in County Wexford again. It never faded away. It was there, but it dropped dramatically. And it wasn't just Wexford. It was in other counties as well. South Kilkenny had it, Kildare, right up to Louth, up to the Oriel areas, East Galway as well. And it changed slightly here and there. But here's a lovely one. This is John Coffey's photograph. I think what's the name of it? Couple lost me now, but this was taken in May 1980 in Laois. Laois was always really big. Westmeath, Offaly, you'd see the tradition, but tradition was, it depended on where you went to. My mother used a furze or a gorse for Maybush. My grandmother in her time used a white thorn. So people went between putting up a little piece of white thorn or a bit of a gorse. Some people actually had a bush growing on their ditch in this case, and you'd actually decorate it. And what you do is you'd put up your Maybush on May Eve. Here's neighbours of mine up in Ballindagan who are keeping up their eggs from Easter Sunday. You'd keep your eggs up and you'd string them together. And one of the lovely things which I see, again, traditions change, and I've seen that cropping up, sometimes when people get involved in traditions, they kind of want to preserve them. And it's the last thing I'd want to do is preserve anything, because in some ways, by preserving it, it's not real, One of the things I've noticed in Wexford and noticed in Offaly was that even a new twist on that was that people always put up a little bit of silver paper, whatever they could get their hands on back in the 50s, 60s to decorate them. But now I notice in older people, I'm going to skip back a few slides. See this woman here? This is Elsie Donnelly. She passed away. She's from Timon in Wexford. But she would decorate her Maybush. It's a living bush with bits of the wrappers from the Easter eggs. And bits of tinsel from Christmas and Easter boxes. You can see it looks like there's rubbish put on it. If anyone passed by who didn't know what it was, but that's one thing you will find. People will hang on to the wrappers now from their Easter eggs at Easter, and use that in the Maybush. So you get a continuation, even though it's mass-produced paper. So people paint them, and you put them up with eggshells. So you put up so here's a string of them again. You can see someone here with a string of eggshells. The tradition was to string them together and wrap them around it. Now, there's an interesting take on why we're using eggshells, but I'll come back to that. But again, before I lose some of so what a Maybush was, it could be, in most cases here, was white thorn or gorse or furze. And it was put up on May Eve. And it was put up on May Eve outside the house, usually on a pile of dung, or up on a height, or outside the door, and with the idea that would keep bad luck away. If it was white thorn, no way in hell would it be brought into the house, because people hated the concept of bringing a white thorn into the house. You wouldn't bring it in; it was awful bad luck. Said hens would stop setting, people would die belong to you. That's the kind of general story that goes with that. So they was put up outside, and the primary things were the seasonal flowers, eggshells, ribbons, that kind of thing. and decorated. Now, some people decorate them now on May Day and on the 1st of May itself, and there were Maybush dances. So here you can see photographs from County Wexford. These are just like bits of white thorn that are bits of gorse that are withered. And sometimes they're really small. They don't have to be really big ornate things. I suppose it's like the Christmas tree years ago. If you look back at the evolution of the Christmas tree, even ourselves here, which, and by the way, the Christmas tree wasn't a thing. We didn't have Christmas trees, kids. We only got it maybe about 9 or 10, I suppose. We didn't have it in our early years. My mother and father wouldn't have had it, and so many rural people wouldn't have had a Christmas tree in Wexford and other counties as well. It was completely foreign. Holly and ivy were the thing. So I suppose like the evolution of the Christmas tree, now we have massive Christmas trees in our houses. I suppose years ago when people actually started to bring them in, they would have been putting up boughs and buckets of sand on top of the kitchen table or something. So lots of May bushes now are going from mini size to super size very quickly, but I suppose that's all okay too, you know. So these are photographs of May bushes around southwest Wexford. Again, these are lovely, all up on a height. Again, just to show you. And the reason I'm interested in showing you these photographs, these were taken by a man called John Flynn. He's a postman. Is that you can see that the tradition is alive. This is not in this case it's not revived, right? In the sense that it was continued and carried on. Up on the height again here, a piece of gorse. There's my own mother decorating one of hers. She's passed away a couple of years ago, but this was taken in 2010. And she would take a different notion on her every year, and she might decorate the bush more times she wouldn't. Now, obviously, needless to say, those balloons didn't last too long, considering what gorse is like. We do with our own kids now. We use whitethorn. There's our own girls doing it. There they are in our house doing it. There they are this year doing it. There's my wife's aunts. They're 3 nuns are out in Australia, and they came back home. One of them passed away only a couple of months ago, but they only used to come home every month, so 10 years. But it was lovely for them to come back home one year, and they put up this was taken in 2010 to put up the May bush back in the yard where they grew up as children. So it was always there. It was always under the surface. Other things with the May bush went up. There's loads of variants. There's nothing. This is the thing with folklore, and I'm sure the fellows up in Westmeath have a different version of this, and the ones in East Galway they will, because it just changes, and there's nothing fixed, and that's allowed. One of the lovely things here was we used to have even in the middle of Dublin City was the same. Dublin City had a whole May bush tradition as well, massive, and there's great songs. There's a guy called Fergus Russell, traditional singer, has got a great 17th century song. Hugh Shields collected it, and it's about 2 fellas from the north side and the south side fighting over a May bush, so territorial kind of stuff again. And there's classic kind of stuff. You'll still see it in St. John's Eve bonfires, where one community wants a bigger bonfire than the one's down the road. Pure, it's kind of nature. It goes back to hurling, the tribal. It's all those things tied into one. But one of the lovely things I found here in Wexford from recording people was you'd have a May bush procession as well. So you'd have people. This was photographs. This is from the Department of Folklore, but I have recordings of traveller women and people and settled country people, as you want to call them, down in New Ross doing it, where they'd go around with a May bush and gangs of little kids, like on St. Stephen's Day, and they'd be looking penny for the May bush, penny for the May bush, penny for the May bush, and they might do a little song. And that was big there. That one also went on up in Dublin. Also, they used to go looking for candles for the May bush. Now, here's the really interesting one. This goes back to Bealtaine. It goes back to the month of May and Bealtaine and bright fire, or bright light, or that's the interpretation I have anyway of it. And it was just because the sun, we were going into the summer, and we're right in between the two. We're between 2 equinoxes. I'm confused now with myself now, but the May bush was held up high and paraded. Again, just to show you, hang on, where are we going here? Sorry, yeah. So the May bush is held up and paraded, and sometimes people look for candles for them. And I've come across loads of accounts of people where they used to put candles in their May bushes. And up around Bunclody, northwest Wexford, what young lads would do is that day they'd gather that day and they'd get their May bush to go to get their gorse usually, and they'd decorate it, and then that evening then they'd burn it and they'd sit around, and sometimes back in the day they'd be throwing tires on it, whatever, get their hands on it to have a bonfire, chaps drinking, and that was their May fire. So always a bonfire was very strong here in County Wexford. It was probably strong in other counties as well, but it was really strong. And again, not a revived thing. That's what I keep up to stress. It's not revived. And this, like, what really gets me sometimes, I'm out recording places that were never recorded. Never, because it didn't fit. Sometimes didn't fit the narrative of where these things exist, right? And maybe people don't have the resources to go record everywhere, but I'm constantly finding stuff. I found a lovely account only about a week ago. A man called Pater Mordant up near Gorey, Inchin Gorey, phoned me, 70 years of age. And he's lovely, that accent from up that part of Wexford. And he said, when they were chaps, they used to, him and his friend, it's all tied in with land land as well and land change. And fields had always had an old gorse growing in them, or an old knock in the field. Now when out land, especially in Wexford, it's prize agricultural land, so it's cleared. You barely have ditches in some cases. So they said there'd always been old gorse growing in the field, and they would literally buy some sweets and go outside and set fire to it. And that was their May bush. They'd sit and they'd watch the May bush go on fire. And sometimes they used to buy paraffin oil and cover it in it and then burn it and go up in a puff of smoke. And that was their May bush. So it was a May bush / May bonfire. And then they would leave it. And then he said one of the great things about that was that it would actually grow back. It would come back the following year rather than cutting it down. So that was a lovely take on that. May bush masses as well were another one I've come across here in Wexford, where the church were involved. I'll touch on that in a while, where the church became involved in the whole thing. Here's a gorgeous photograph from, if you ever need to look at someone's work, this is William Green. Now I've added colour to it, it's not great, but I don't know where it was taken. Green mostly photographed he came down to Wexford, he followed the train lines I suppose, but he went to mostly Ulster, and he was over in West Connacht as well, and Sligo. There's great photographs of strawberries up around in Sligo at a wedding. So this is a piece of gorse being put over, a piece of furze being hung over the door, and again that and ferns left at it. Sometimes people also put mountain ash or rowan on them as well to stop them. And one lovely variant of that whole tradition, which still survives, it's strong in County Mayo and other counties as well. It's strong in one pocket of Wexford. I can't understand it. Again, if you go back to the map here, you'll see it. You'll see these Mayflowers. And the Mayflower tradition was the idea you would scatter, again like the bush thing, you would keep the fairies away, you'd scatter them on the thresholds, so you'd put them on doorsteps, on the windowsills, and that was right up to Donegal. And again, for my own case, it's right around North Wexford, around Coolgraney, Arklow. That's where that tradition survived here with us. But it's that same idea. Now, some people have very fixed rules about what colours you use, bog irises or whatever. They could be using bluebells. So again, some people can be very fixed about that's the only colour you can use. But listen, I don't buy it sometimes, These are photographs were dropped in the May door up in May Burns house up in Coolgraney this year, 1st of May this year. I'm going to show you something else, just to show you when I'm talking about traditions, swapping, jumping counties and stuff. I'm going to let you listen to some of Tipperary stuff. Now, this is as long as a piece of string, really, now, to be fair with you, with what you can show and what you can't show, because, what we touch on. But this is just giving you an idea of these Tipperary people here, giving you an idea of some of the slightly different ones. These would have been recorded in Care, Clonmel, Nina over a couple course of years, and just put together for a show. If I can find it now. Tipperary May customs. Here we go.
The farmers were told never to give away milk on the 1st of May, or to have it's a bad luck for to be giving away milk or something for the rest of the year. I think we heard. They give it away on the 1st of May, you'd be giving it away for the rest of that year. And you'd have bad luck or something like that.
No farmer will give you milk because his quantity of milk will go down if he give away the milk on the 1st of May to anybody, not even for a neighbour would he give it. The same with potatoes. I know that now from my own experience, that I sold a cartload of potatoes to a farmer in May, and my crop was just marvellous.
On May then, and in the evening time, 7 or 8 o'clock, you'd Easter water be brought out and you would shake it in the house, and the farmyard, the animals that are there, the calves and the cows and that, then out in the fields and in the crops.
Oh yeah, shaking holy water on the field, yeah. I did, Maeve, yeah. I did, I used to do it one time. Spread the holy water on all the fields. And you put a May bush in the cow heap. Outside the cows.
I wish to remember that always.
Yeah, May bush.
Was that what it was?
Well, that was a May bush, yeah. Keep the fish hawks away.
Oh, we used to walk in our bare feet in the dew, supposed to get rid of corns, but it never did.
If we had corns now, to walk in the morning, the dews, to take him away, to walk in the morning, dew early in the morning, for something from corns. It was supposed to be a great cure to dew in the morning, the rest.
The May Jew, we had
we were supposed to get it on
Wash
our
our-
hands and
yeah,
we rub
wash
it
our
into
face.
our face and give us lovely faces.
Walk on your bare feet and
Yeah.
made you supposed to make it good looking or keep your skin nice and soft and that. Then the May tree, the May tree, you'd get bits of the May bush,
Yeah.
and put it in the pot and decorate it with flowers.
Yes.
That. I don't know what that was supposed to do, but that was the
Yeah, we did it on May Day.
Yeah, we always
Yeah.
did it as well. Was you
Yes,
did as
we
well?
did, sure.
We put on you'd have a dunghill.
Yes.
I would stick it down into the dunghill.
Oh, yes.
Put cowslips and primroses and
Yeah.
all tied on it. I don't know what that was supposed to be for, but we always did it anyhow. And you put a piece of a May bush, put and outside, stick it up in the eave of the house. I was supposed to bring good luck.
Well, you watch your face in the May Dew and you see the face of the person you're going to marry. Well, all going well.
Yeah, on May morning, when the dew was on the grass, you went out early and you washed your face to keep away blemishes of all sorts, pimples and acne and so forth, etc.
Yeah, May Eve. First, you go out and you shake holy water all around the four corners of your field or garden, wherever you had. And you picked a bit of a May bush on your way back. And you just, as you're going in, you hang it over the door.
Used to have a May bush.
A May bush,
In my
yes.
time, yeah.
And you put it in the fields.
Pushed in the dunghill.
Yeah.
We used to put all ribbons on it and we used to get flowers and tie them around in bunches and sew them onto all the branch, or just stick them onto the branches. All the work we used to do with the May bush.
I'm going to stop it there. I'm going to go back here to photos. I hope you're all okay because I can't see or gauge you there, but I hope you're there. I see the numbers are still there around 50, so that's good. There's gorgeous bits and pieces there. Again, I love accents. I love different ways of saying and stresses and rises and stuff. Again, loads of similar stuff to the Wexford stuff, and I could show you Mayo stuff, and there'd be loads of similarities, and loads of Donegal stuff, and loads of similarities. You know, the water was a big thing. Water, dew. Washing the May Dew, keeping the May Dew, and I'll touch on this later on. That was really important. I also one thing I noticed was that they called it the May Tree, and that's a word that travelled over to Newfoundland, where we were. There was a community mostly from South Tip, a bit of a Wexford Waterford influence, probably South Kilkenny. Wexford women mostly were settled there, but it was mostly men, South Tip men, a handful of South Tip men. Another things as well. One thing that really strikes me was always that, again, this was done in Wexford and done in, and I'm trying to get my own head around it. Now you can theorize why, but the stuck in the dung heap, and you'd be wondering, like, is this a sign of fertility? You know, the dung heap, because every yard had a dung heap or a midden up the north, and Maybush was stuck in this. And then I remember talking to someone one time and said, sure, it's the only safe place to put it, you know, because it wouldn't be, the hens wouldn't pick the shells off it. If you had that down low, the hens would climb up and they'd pick the eggs off the eggshells off it. So I don't know, maybe there could be some kind of symbolic reason, or there could be a pure practical reason as well. But height was important, and that height thing was important. I suppose you look at May poles and you look at May bushes or May trees in Newfoundland as well, there's a height element to them. Here's an element with height to it now. This is a man called Damien Keaton down in Gussaron in Wexford. And this is taken 2 weeks ago, his May bush. And this is where you start to see the layers. You see the May bush, you see he's grotto to the Virgin Mary. You see a May bush on top with a few ribbons on it. And then you'll see a Wexford flag thrown on for good luck then as well, right? So you see those lovely layers all existing side by side with each other. And that height thing was important. This man kept the whole thing going. And if you want the closest to, there's communities in Newfoundland. We spent a month there with our 3 kids, and we came back and we read a little thing up in the village hall in Rathnure, and we met Damien. I met him years ago, and we met him with the kids, and the girl said to me, what part of Newfoundland is he from, Daddy? Because if you heard the accent, it was the closest to the Newfoundland accent I've heard from the Wexford side. There's a big contingent from that part of the county went out to there. So there's the southeast of Ireland, there's Newfoundland. This one thing that blew me out, this will tell you how things work, folks, as well. This is social media. This is Facebook. Me getting directly into the hands. There were people I knew who work in academia in Newfoundland who there might be one or two accounts here and there, but not in the same way. You know, that kind of same. I always find there's a kind of a gathering and taking and not giving anything back. Not always the case, but I just sometimes I've seen it, I've witnessed it. But here's a May bush, or here's a May tree down in Point Lance, 2 hours outside St. John's. This is a woman called Catherine Conway's May tree. And what's lovely on it, and you'll see these layers of history, they brought it straight out from South Kilkenny, South Wexford. That's where that went out from, not necessarily Waterford. You're talking Wexford, Carlow, Kilkenny. This is where it went out from, maybe South Tip, whatever as well. Don't get as many in Waterford, but went out. So they don't have the Skiochard same as we have. So they've got Christmas tree type trees. So they put them on it, right? One thing which is really striking here is because of strong Catholic community, the Virgin Mary becomes associated with the month of May is kind of seen as the month of Our Lady, and blue is the colour. And I'll touch on May altars in a while. So the May bush tradition becomes something else as well. So you're starting, in some cases, you'll have people said, oh yeah, there was always rosary set around the May bush. Well, more people actually would have had a May bush, and the May bush would have been just put up in their home privately, or you would have had a May bush dance. That was a big thing here in Wexford, where you would have had May bush dances, where you would have had people gathering, and people would have gathered and shifted and drank and played tunes and just socialised. And I've come across anecdotally from loads of people that the local priest would have stepped in and put an end to it. So that happened in a few cases here. I've known at least 2 or 3 May bushes were scrapped because of the interference with the church, and because it was just maybe it was tied in with shifting and courting and their control. They couldn't put over that situation. So what's interesting here is you got the layers. You know, I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but I like the layers here. So you'll have the Virgin Mary up on top, and you'll have blue, because blue is associated. And what's really interesting here is in this woman, Catherine does it, and the people in this community in Newfoundland would have done it as well. They would have worn a blue armband for the month of May, and then for June it was the month for the Sacred Heart, and those blue ribbons were taken down and red ribbons were put up instead. And likewise, people swapped the armbands and put a red one. That was up in Branch as well. Here's Catherine Conway with our May tree. Another lovely thing, which is I'm trying to get my own head around this one, was the fairy lights. To basically putting fairy lights on your May tree over there. And I'm trying to figure out, was it just Catherine? Because the amount of people, this is the only woman that I would have known in this whole area, the big area, who would have done it. Now there's more people done it, because we've kind of created awareness between Wexford and Newfoundland about it. But what I'm always interested in, was it a leftover from the candle tradition, where those candles put on the May bush, and it's just like another layer on that, which is lovely. So there's I took these photographs last year over at our house, so it's just gorgeous. So there's your fairy lights on your May bush, your May tree. We've got little kids here, so we put on we don't burn our May bush until June, so we leave it up for the month and we put little lights on it for the kids here, our own kids. One thing we always do have, though, is we always have bonfires on May Eve. And again, this narrative, again, you won't find it. You'll type in sometimes, again, unless you change it, I suppose you can change it. But the bonfire tradition was huge in North Wexford. My grandmother always went to them, bonfires, as they call them, right? And that's, you'll still get in Mayo for St. John's Eve, they'll call them bonfires rather than bonfires. The older people would have called them. And even the Irish for a bonfire is Tinnacanov. But the bonfires were really big, and again faded away. I suppose, for loads of reasons. I suppose why bonfires fade away is because people start turning up with sofas and wardrobes and beds and mattresses and throwing stuff on it, so it becomes messy and unruly. So that's a kind of a result of the kind of the consumer life or lifestyles that we're leading, where we have all this stuff, and rather than people getting rid of it properly, recycling it, they used to burn it. So that kind of put an end to that. So, but still, you'll still hear of bonfires like within people's homes. But in Gorey town, I've recordings of a man here in Gorey said like the whole town would be lit up. Not the whole town, to be all the estates be trying to better each other with bonfires. Arklow was the same. And again, this we don't hear this is not a kind of a well-known narrative, but that's it. And this is not tied in, which is interesting. You people up on the hill of Ishnock, or there's the main fire. I don't know the ins and outs of the whole but people who are pagans, how important it is. But I just know that this is not something that was, some fellow with dreadlocks didn't come in here and get this going. This was just people doing it themselves, and which is lovely. So. Where am I going at all? Are we still there? I'll let you hang on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm looking at time, folks, and it's now 10 to. I'll carry on for another while, while, which if you don't mind, I'll carry on until 9:10 or so. I'm going to see if I can share the screen with you. New share. I'm going to go in here and click share. Let's see, can I find a man for you to show you. A man called Jimmy Egan in Gorey. Here, have a listen to this fella. Jimmy, we're here in Ramsford Avenue.
Ramsford Avenue, yeah.
In Gorey.
That's right.
Was there a big bonfire on May Day years ago?
Always. Yeah, always. There's stuff gathered for a month beforehand. Chairs and timber and tires and mattresses, whatever you had, you throw it in on, and it was all going there and burnt out into the small hours of the morning. Used to be a big crowd around it, like, you know. But there wasn't any music. There was music at the one in the Garden City now. And they were dancing at it as well, like, you know. They used to dance with these old twigs, you know, that's for sweeping the floor, like. That's all like that it was really, like. But that went on every year for years. Now, in the last, well, 10 years now, there hasn't been any, like. But up to that, there was.
So I'm going to back to share my screen again. Going back to my photographs. So just to show you that there it is, alive and well. You know, he's saying 10 years ago. Maybe it was a bit longer, right? Sometimes our own notion when you get older, our notions of time can change. But there it is. And I've got records of my own grandmother talking about it, neighbours talking about these Maybush bonfires and Maybush dances that went on. One of the things was this height thing was very important, folks. There's a Maybush over a May tree over in Newfoundland. Some of us don't realise, well, we actually had maypoles in Ireland. You see, we think of maypoles and we think of a kind of a very English tradition, but that maypole tradition was across parts of across Germany, up in Sweden, and I'm sure there's a lot of other Eastern Bloc countries as well where it went on. But in England and Wales, it was big, Cornwall, and parts of Ireland. You know, there was up in County Down. There was maypoles in Dublin, maypoles in Waterford. It depended really. There were big public ones up north, up in County Down. I've seen photographs of them. Here's a series of photographs when I came across recently of from the Pool collection in Watford. These were set up. Now you'd always associate the maypole tradition as very, very English, but it's all tied in with the whole, the start of summer, and people, the boys dressed up in little kind of smocks, white smocks mostly, and the girls not with flowers in their hair. It's incredible to look, incredible images. These are from the National Library. And if you look here, you'll see flowers in the girls' hairs. And again, that's like back to our flowers on the Maybush and our flowers on the doors. It's you know, there's so many of our cross-European traditions here. Here's a photograph that are colorized. This is from William Green again. William Green's photographs are amazing. These were taken in Westmeath, and these are from the National Museum of Northern Ireland, their collection. But again, you see the girls in their little smocks and little flowers in their hair. And I don't know whether they were going off for a little May picnic or not. I'm not sure. That's the only photograph we have. But it's obviously, it was May. It was May tradition. I want to show you something interesting. I came across some interesting videos on Pate of the Maybush, May Queen tradition over in England and Wales. And also what's brilliant is we found footage of Ireland as well. I found footage of Ireland. I run a page, by the way, called folklore.ie. So it's my own page for years. I used to share stuff. And I still do. But then I said, listen, I'm going to be bombarding my timeline here with just all folklore. So I use that page. And it's got grown to about 22,000 followers now. And it's brilliant. It's all done free. Everything I'm doing is, you get paid project work where you go off and do your work. And this is free. It's a labor of love, really, in some ways. But it's a great tool for me. It's a great tool for me to get stuff out there. It's a great tool for me to research, but it's also a bigger, wider social tool, which I use, or a community tool, you know, and people see it and people value it, hopefully. So I'm going to show you a little video in a second. This is I'm going to show you a video clip just to show you how things can change very quickly in Ireland when layers, and you can see the layers with our May Queen tradition became, you'll see it when I'm going to click on, hang on there. I'm going to go and use share. I'm going to get a video for you. I'm going to click share and get out of here. And May Queen England, May Queen. Okay, here it is. I put two of them together. I'm going to flick through them just to show you, right? England, 1923. No sound, by the way. Sorry. Here's the crowning of a May Queen. See this? I'm going to just move along. So the May Queen is crowned. People dance and were merry, and there was music and there was sport and loads of dancing. games, hobby horses, all that kind of stuff, classical set dancing. And then you would have the maypole, right? Now, here's Ireland 2 years earlier, straight after independence. And what happened is a lot of the May is become heavily associated with the church and Mary. So this is, I found all over Wexford, people will still went out and did, they would use their they dress up in their Holy Communion dresses and go for parades. But it was you can see the girl there, crowd control, very organized, pushing in the little girl there, right, for the camera probably. And it was, a big show of clergy, like a procession, a very strong Catholic procession. And Mary was carried up high. It's like a procession you see in Britain or whatever, still to this day, I suppose. But that element of it changed. It became, and I'm just going to end that there now for you. There's a good few clips of that kind of stuff online. My other half is here, so we'll be done our 15 minutes before we get ready to sing, Aileen. Fair enough. So I'm going to a new share. I'm going to go back to the image for you folks. I can't gauge what you're thinking or looking at, right? But basically, so you can see a huge shift, and that's a comparison there, a very strong comparison. You can see within, that one was filmed in Dublin, one was filmed somewhere in England. But as I said to you before, our Maybush dances used to take place here in Wexford. There was a village not too far away from us where the priest put an end to it and got rid of the Maybush, cut it down, and he was known afterwards as Father Skeoch being the word for a bush, because he cut it down. So that changed slightly. But again, listen, I'm up for layers. We're all full of layers, and we're classic county of layers is County Wexford, and that's what makes us, and that's who we are. This is actually a May altar that belonged to my grandmother. It was made from my grandmother pre-Vatican II from an old tea chest, and tea chest was a piece of folk art. And she was throwing it out, and my father saved it. And then when my father passed away, I found it up in the attic at home, and I took it. Now my kids are using it, but they decorated they put up little flowers on it for the month of May themselves. Even though we're not mad religious, we still have kind of respect for it and what it was used for. But it's even just to watch it as a piece of furniture, a piece of folk furniture, you can look here, you can see that the statue of Our Lady was always on a height, and then you'd always have the flowers down low here, or maybe the flowers here. And sometimes you'd see them in people's houses. The statue of Our Lady was always on a height. And that's going back to your height of your maypole and your maybush. So there's loads of layers all built into each other. There's the back of the May thing. Here's a woman over in Newfoundland showing me her May altar. And funny, I couldn't believe it. Anyone who's ever seen a May altar in Ireland, my grandmother's one on any of the houses were like hers. They were always on top of the stairs. That's where your May altar was. And it was put up there for the month of May with little flowers were brought in, the statue of Our Lady. Straight away, what do we see in Newfoundland? In the same community again where we were, close to where the Maybush was, you'd have the May altar, but always on the height, top of the stairs, back to the height again. Here's another one in someone's, Darren Power's house in Branch, the Virgin Mary. And it was, flicking there, there's the May altar there. Actually, just to show you as well, that was made from an old clock. I think they were called, what is the name of the clocks? And it was a repurposed piece of furniture as well. People had very little, so they repurposed that and made it into a little altar. This is the woman, Catherine Conway, who had her May bush. But when I was leaving there last year, she had a May altar, but she didn't have stairs in the house, so she put it up on the top of the fireplace. So it's blue there again. You can see it's blue, and that changed to red then for the month of June. So it's up in the height again, one of the highest parts in the house. Here's a May altar from Munamalin in County Wexford, photographed in 2005, I think it was, 5 or 6, and I love it. You have the May altar, the statue of Our Lady up on a height. I don't know what she's sitting on or standing on, but you'd always put that kind of little dolly on it, and the flowers then down below it. And you'd have whatever seasonal flowers, cuckoo flowers, that kind of stuff on it. And I love the idea you had the Simpsons beside it. The folklore.ie page is a brilliant page for me because people are sending me stuff. I'm actually recording, even during lockdown, I'm actually getting loads of recording and worked on, tons of stuff worked on without even being near people, but still keeping a lovely hand to the people in the stories and the people in them. This is a woman sent me photographs where father-in-law who made her a May altar during lockdown. I think he was 70 or 80 years of age. I can't want to insult a man with his age now, but he made her this lovely May altar during lockdown for her, and here they are getting a photograph taken for me and sending it to me. One of the high things as well that was interesting was this is a woman called, this is a photograph taken in Wexford. Again, here I'm talking about Wexford, lads, because Wexford is my home and this is my territory, and I'm delighted to do it because you know, if you don't puck out for your own team, who are you going to puck out for at all? You know, so you're going to tug out for your own team. So this is the back of a trailer up in Coolgraney, 54, I think it was. And this is the May Queen. So we did have a May Queen tradition here. And this is classic St. Patrick's Day kind of stuff in Ireland, you know, the trailer and the parade, young lad playing the accordion. And I think the woman is Margaret Nash here. She was the May Queen here. And there's a May bush there and with all garlands and flowers on it. That was a really strong area. That's the same village where the little Mayflowers are thrown on the doorstep, where that survived. It's funny, these all faded away. And we started to do a load of work around the May bush. And actually the conversations are starting again. People are talking about these traditions like they never talked about them before. Again, what's really valuable sometimes as well, we didn't have someone come down collecting our stuff. So what I'm doing, I'm finding through social media. I'm actually archiving and collecting material from people's personal archives. These photographs were sent to me from Gorey from about 1990. And it was one of the girls in this photograph, she's an adult now, she sent me the photographs of them putting up a May bush. So they're decorating an old tree behind them. And you see here, there's a king, a May king and a May queen. These are family personal photographs. And what's special, again, no one would have recorded these. No one would have come down and recorded these. And that's what's lovely is we're getting lovely real stuff like that. And you can place it on a timeline. This is a woman over in Newfoundland with her bush. I'm absolutely way behind time here, but I'll fly through it. Connor, can you hear me at all?
I can. Yeah, you're grand, Michael. And Liam said we're grand on time, so you know, do what you want to do. I think, you know, people are hanging on, and the nice thing is obviously to be able to follow up on YouTube afterwards. But if they have to cut out, but no, batter on.
Okay, cool out. One of the lovely things that we do, myself and Aileen, we grew up with the tradition in the sense that it was on and off in our lives, you know, and it's like this with it's a queer one. About 5 years ago, we've been collecting and recording May folklore and sharing it and getting the conversations going. And you can see the impact it was having. You can see the impact it was having nationally. Without a doubt, I can see it. And all this is done voluntary, lads. The people say, oh, geez, you must be working for someone. You must be loaded. You earn your whole. You're working, driving every area you have to do it. Or else it's not going to be done. Or else it'll be blanks. And you don't want to, you know, especially if you're speaking for your own territory. So one of the things we set up was a thing called the Wexford Maybush Festival. Now, in some ways, it wasn't a festival because the festivals sometimes were, you know, there were festivals or festivals, and we saw during the recession there were festivals were cropping up with, you know, there were parachuting festivals here and there, but this, that, and the other. But this was different. This was almost a ground up kind of a non-festival in some ways, but we called it a festival. We asked people. We started to generate conversations through social media, local radio, and local paper to talk about Maybushes and get people to put up Maybushes again. Now we said to ourselves, right, you've got two options, lads. You can either forget about it, resign it to the past, or embrace it and get it going again, right? And it hadn't died out, or even just get people to do it. I always keep saying to people, we have no problem sticking a Christmas tree up in our sitting rooms come Christmas and dragging it in, sticking it up, and we all like it. We love it. We love the look of it, the smell of it, and it's part of our lives now. But it wasn't part of our lives 50 years ago. It wasn't part of our lives in my parents' lives anyway, grandparents' lives. Completely foreign, completely imported. We had from England, America, German immigrants brought over. So we've embraced that. So there's other yokes we've done ourselves that we're happy to let go. So I said, no, I wasn't willing to let this one go. So we started to build up conversations, taking up photographs of Mary Murphy's Maybush and sharing them on social media. And the festival really was this idea that we planted the seed that, take a photograph of your Maybush, stick it up. And we got people helping us. This is John Flynn again. He's a postman down in Campile. And John would go around and he'd be photographing Maybushes for me. Oh, here's a Maybush there, there's a Maybush there, there's a Maybush there. It's amazing you could get a postman as well who likes history. So we started asking people in villages and towns to put up the Maybush again. And here in our own village where we're living, people came together and put up the Maybush. Simple stuff, right? Really simple. This is 2017. And it's just taken off. This is a woman from Slovakia. You know, here's the great pan-European stuff. They do a version of that. You go, who's doing with a Maybush? We do that. And no, it's our version. Slightly different take on it, but it's the same thing again, different tree, right? Here's a Polish man living out in Adamstown. Every year puts up where he grew up, there was a version of it as well. They used Kinder eggs. Look at these, right? So there's loads of lovely layers. But the most important thing is we mark the start of summer. One of the things which we're doing was people were cutting down little bushes, little white thorns, and putting them up. And we said, geez, wouldn't it be lovely to cement it down in a different way without kind of impacting on the environment? So we banged heads. Again, we got a couple of 100 trees was first off the county council here, little baby white thorns, and asked people to plant them. And lads, you wouldn't believe it. The oaks are only worth about 50 cents each, right? But we would get people, we live up there near Bunclody on the map. And we would have someone from down near Rams Grange driving 40, 50 minutes, you know, probably costing them €8 in diesel or petrol to drive up to us for a 50-cent bush. But the idea is people wanted to be part of it. So first we started off 100 May bushes, and people got them and they photographed them in their garden. And that was the idea that we would have something and would literally plant the seed and it would grow and it would be there. And every year, children, parents, grandparents will come out and go, that's the May bush, right? And we know it then. And that was one way. This is coming from a conceptual art background as well, our way of framing and changing things. So we literally worked for years, the last couple of years, giving out May bushes all around County Wexford. And this year we got, I think it was 300. They went like that in a snap. And we got more, and my kids are involved in it as well. So we had little flyers given out to people. So people got them, and then they would take 20 and they'd drop them off to their neighbours, so they have 20. So literally you're planting the idea back into the county again. Powerful stuff, lads, believe me, right? And you see kids doing it, tiny little yolks, right? But they're growing, and they're growing every year. And we got another 200, I think, there by the end of it, right? This is before lockdown. This is in February, right? And what was lovely this year, we at May Eve and May Day, we had about 250 to 300 photographs sent in to us from all over Wexford, and all actually from Liverpool, from the States, from Newfoundland, of people sending in photographs of their May bushes. And what was powerful was we had the little baby ones that were planted last year, the year before, the year before. These are kids who never planted one before, but now they know the May bushes that'll be in their garden. Here was a man 70 some years of age by a May bush in Willow Park in Gorey. He remembered it as a child, but it faded away. His mother is 103 or 104, and she remembers it. She lives in one of the houses behind it. So powerful stuff, lads. There's a bit more happening there. And when we're dead and gone, these May bushes will be there. There's one that's cut down. There's one that's cut down. There's one that was planted. So hopefully in years to come, everyone that got one will plant them again, right? One thing we did was we brought the tradition. We were in Newfoundland last year for a month, and we got all the kids over there who were in the school where our kids were going, and they put up a May bush. And that's what they use. It's like a Christmas tree. That's what they have. So this year, there's our kids putting them up with them last year. Lovely first-hand stuff. And here's the principal of the school sending us photographs this year. We were supposed to be in Newfoundland, and they're doing it now. And we've noticed the uptake with that connection with Newfoundland and the southeast of Ireland. I'll carry on. So that's all. The May bush thing is brilliant. It's important to me because I suppose we're part of that May bush festival. And if you go to the Wexford May bush festival page, you'll see hundreds of May bushes. And literally, it's a lovely page because it dies now come the end of May, and it'll come back to life again come February when we get new trees to plant, and it'll come really active then for a few weeks in May and fade away again. And that's the nature of it. One of the lovely things was, we touched on it earlier on, was walking in the May Dew. That was another lovely thing. Out in the May Dew and walking in the May Dew was a common, people would say it here, wash your face in the May Dew. Loads of things around the May Dew as well, where you would see the fella you would marry, or the girl you were going to marry. Mostly the fella, the girls mostly did this. And you would see, and it's like Halloween again, it was that kind of May Eve, or like even St. Bridget, or Eve of St. Bridget's Day, was where it was a lot of kind of divination between, you're predicting your future. There were games that were played, and you're going to figure out who you're going to marry, or will you live or will you die. And that's one of the things that's really, really strong with the month of May, lads, is around your crops growing, around your health. Got a lovely verse from someone today. I'll see can I flick through it. There's my other half, and you'll see her now in real life. She's washing her face in the May Dew. And lovely as well, people are sending us photographs on Facebook of their kids washing their face in the May Dew. This woman says, Noreen, my daughter, was out washing her face in the May Dew as I did growing up in Ballindagan. So people are connecting back with what they did themselves without losing it, without having to revive it too much, which is lovely. Lovely things which I crossed over with Newfoundland again was there's me washing my face in the snow. The first snow that fall of the year, everyone said, well, get out there and wash your face in the snow, or throw it on your face, it'll protect you from any illnesses. That was the general belief now. But one of the things, I don't know, you heard it in one of the earlier videos, was May Dew was important. People collected the May Dew in a bottle, or the first drop of rain on May was collected in a bottle, and that was kept up, and they said it was a cure, and that cure for sore eyes. And straight away in Newfoundland, what did they do? They don't have May Dew. I couldn't find dew over there actually where we were, but they get snow. They wait to the first snow that falls in May. Normally the snow should be gone, but it always might be a little shower here and there. So the first snow shower, you collect the snow and you bottle the water, and you'd use that for sore eyes. So it's straight over there, transplanted straight over there. I could do a talk on Newfoundland stuff for you till the cows come home, right? There's my little one collecting the first May snow with us, and the May snow was kept in a little bottle for a cure for sore eyes. I even like the rituals doing stuff like that. They're nice to do. One of the things which I love was I'm going to end up 10 more minutes. Okay?
Yeah, let's bring them up.
Yeah.
10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 more minutes. I'm talking to my other half here. We've got our three girls are going to end with a song. We leave on a happy note. One of the things which crops up is around profit. A saucer was one thing. I've come across this Wexford Tipperary, I've come across the where Offaly was a tradition of May morning. You get up and you'll find a woman skimming the well, and basically she'll be taking your profit. She'd be down in the well saying, half for you, half for me, half for you, half for me. My father had it. I came across it. I could never make sense of it until I heard more and more people telling versions of it. And it was in that moment that your luck could be taken, or your luck could be taken on you. And it was usually just kind of a woman or a witch, and that's all people would have of this story. And I recorded a man up in Carlow, up in Tinryland. I was out photographing his dresser 2 or 3 years ago, and he had a gorgeous version of it. And I've got a really nice recording of it here as well. But that's this skimming the well, or taking the top of the water, the top, like the dew was the top on the grass, the cream was like the cream of the crop, the cream of the milk. So I'm going to let you listen to this man talk, because it's just, it blows me away. Share, and there's my name. Get rid of that. Now, where are we going to talk? Like I said, I could talk to you for 3 or 4 days, lads, but I won't now. Jim Dean, here we go. Now, the audio isn't great here. This is recorded on the hop. Bit noisy. Ready? Oh, whether you can't see that. You were saying the 1st of May is a powerful month anyway.
That's right, yeah.
You were saying about no one to give you anything on the 1st of May.
That's right, yeah. Some of the older people were terribly suspicious about the 1st of May. And in this area, way back, I often heard my late father saying about older people, on the 1st of May, if you went to a stream, and if you had a knife or a scissors, and you had to do this before you spoke to anybody. And what used to be said was, all come hither to me this fine May morning, and you cut the running water with a knife or a scissors. Now, there was a lot of bad luck attached to it as well, because people could wish bad luck on neighbours that time as well, but you could also wish for good luck yourself, so it was a 50-50. People were nervous, but you could wish bad luck on your neighbours, which was a terrible thing to do, and the cow mightn't milk for a long time, or the cow might die, or a pig might die, or bad luck will come on the house. But also I heard in reverse that if you wished for luck yourself, you would have luck. But it was a tricky place to go, seemingly. It was a very dark thing to do. But the word was, all come hither to me this fine May morning. And that had to be done before you spoke to anyone in the house, before you left for the well or the river.
That's powerful. That's Jim Dean up here in Tinryland, County Carlow. That's another version of the half for me, half for you. I love the fact that basically it was a grey area, because if you did do it, it was a tricky area because you could bring bad luck to yourself. I'm going to stick on one other video for you as well. I'm of a neighbour of mine. There was another lovely tradition as well around water, around the 1st of May, was to do with the blessing of land. I'm going to pull up the screen for you here now, so I won't press play for a second. You get to see it. No, I don't know. I'm going to leave it there for a second. I'll tell you. Basically, people would have, back to the Easter eggs again, people would get Easter water. And the Easter water in some parts of the country, you would get Easter water, and you'd go out on May Eve and you'd bless the 4 corners of your fields. You'd go from one corner to the other and you'd make the sign of the cross. That was done here, widespread here in County Wexford. Other people would basically stand at the gate and throw the water in and bless the land, or bless the spuds that were growing. That was Easter water. And that was around the country. That was Tipperary, Mayo. That was up and down the country. Down here, we had an unusual thing in Wexford and parts of South Kilkenny as well. We had tran water, and it was different than Easter water. It came from the friars. And they would go around and they would give you this Easter, to do it for a small cost, to give you this water. And people believed the tran was a little insect, and everyone's theory on this insect was different. It was yellow, it was bigger. Some people said it was a leatherjack, different types of insects. But the belief was if you spread it on your land, it would kill this tran, it would eat your corn, eat your crop, and it would get rid of them. I'll let you listen to Jerry now in a second. So that was that. But what's really interesting here was you'd walk from one corner to the other, and that was tied in with the boundaries. There's a whole English tradition as well of marking your boundary ditches, tied in with probably goes back to land formation, field formation, and I'll let you listen to Jerry talk about Tran water, and this is have a listen.
Tran water there was friars from New Ross used to come to the local parish every year in the springtime of the year, and they'd travel around to the houses and they'd bless people that have water, and they'd bless it and make bless water for trans, for the land water, I suppose it was called, and they'd have another bottle of water then, and they'd have it blessed for stock water. and sure, farmers would use it then. Like there was one instance now my father used it on a field of barley that was after being attacked by worms or trans or whatever they were called at the time, but it was tran water it used to be called anyway locally, and he just went in and walked casually across the field cornerways and went to the other corner and come back to the gate, and he spread it with a feather out of a bottle, like, and then just made the sign of the cross, and when he was coming out in the gate and closed the gate, and it worked out all right anyway. The barley was cut anyway when the harvest time came, and it was seemingly all right, but it didn't look very good at the time that he was spreading it, like. But I was left up to himself, like he could have either tore it up or tried this, but sure, them old fellas had to believe anyway that it worked, and so it seemed it did work. You know, so that was basically it. I mean, every farmer, I suppose, in the locality had the same, like, you know, all people had the belief, like, and
powerful, isn't it, the way he says the belief. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to let you go soon to get on with your evenings. But there was loads of gorgeous things there. The walk, I love the visual of walking with a cock's feather and spreading it. I love that. And I love the idea of the silence part of it, where you didn't say a word until you came out of the field. One thing, if you notice in seeing Jer's field, that field was covered in nettles and they were going right up there, maybe a foot high. And I think I saw someone in the audience there. I think Owen Dunbar was there, who was making nettle soup a while ago. That was another great thing actually to do with the month of May, was you'd have to get a feed of 3 nettles. And I could show you a video, but I won't. But there's loads, you know, I'd have Jubilee recordings of people talking about it. But that was a kind of common thing, was you'd have to get a feed of nettles into you in May. It was good for the blood, it'd make you good, make you strong. Or 3 feeds was the case in our case, 3 feeds of nettles. And they had to be May nettles. There's Aileen Lambert, we're doing them. That's from the event up in the National Library a couple of years ago. One other thing which is about your health. There's a lot to do with May and your health. And again, back to I'm coming close to the end here now. A woman sent me this today, and I'd heard it, but it was just lovely the way she had it. So her father said it. Said, March we will search, April will March will search, April will try, May will tell you whether you live or die. And she had it that she was saying that it was Mary Deegan up in Monclody. She was saying that May was a tricky month. Now we're blessed here now in Wexford anyway. Whatever, we've got this gorgeous weather for the month of May. But you know, we had Arctic weather yesterday. It was a really cold day. But people said it was a tricky month, you know, because it could go anyway. So it was a tricky time for older people, especially if you're a little bit sick at all. And they also had that as well. You probably heard it yourselves. The bud of the leaves, or the fall, the budding of the trees, or the fall of the leaf. They were delicate times for older people as well. You'll come across that. I have one collection called The Fall of the Leaf because of that. Other things that cropped up as well. There's absolutely no end. I could spend hours off on May stuff to you. A wet and windy May fills the haggard with corn and hay. So a drop of rain. We're okay at the moment, whatever. But basically, yeah, there's versions of that. Whatever, a drop of rain is a good thing. For those who don't know, a haggard was a hay yard. There's an old Norse word for a hay yard. I think it's found in many counties in Ireland. You'll still find the haggards. The haggard was always the yard, a small little yard beside the farmhouse. That's another one. And I've come across first, if you go to the folklore.ie page, I'd put up this maybe at a lunchtime a couple of days ago, and literally you'll start seeing the threads. Oh, in Westmead we said this, over in Boston we said this. And what really strikes us as those, you know, if the Irish people went to the States and they carried on, which can blow you out of water. You can imagine it in Newfoundland, all right, where those communities were pure Irish still, you know, if you want to call it that. But these were American, grew up in a completely Americanized society, but still hung on to little bits, and that surprises you. So the threads are really interesting. They're always really interesting to look at and listen to. Marion May, here was a great one. My girls are coming up here now for a song with Marion. They're going to join us here now. They said, if you marry in May, you'll rue the day. So when he's got married there now, they said, it's a bad date, it's a bad month to get married. And on that note, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, right? And I've got 3. Now, come here. I've got 3 little girls here beside me. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to I might have to remove 2 girls and have 1 more. Now, say hello, Nelly.
Hello.
If Annie's, I'm missing out on all the chats, folks, right, by the way. So I don't know what people are saying chat-wise. Yeah. So come here. And Aileen here. Here's Aileen Lambert. And now, I'm going to get away. Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
How are you? It's Connor.
Connor, is it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm hosting, so
Very
he's
good.
done a
Was Connor
brilliant.
was he?
He's done a brilliant job. So,
Yeah.
Amir, welcome to you and the Gershes.
No, Nelly, can you pump up that chair till it rises up?
I do.
What do I say?
This is a little song. You tell me.
So we've a little song that the chorus of it is actually a little verse that was recited by girls, young girls on May Eve, in the hope that they would then dream of the man that they're going to marry that night. So they might be warned to go the other direction maybe if they saw him. I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but anyway. So wait till I see, I'm going to move Nelly, in fact. Nelly, I'm going to move you here. So I put an air to it. There's the little 4 lines. No, that's not bad. You should stand up all together now. I put an air to the 4 lines that are normally recited. And then I started writing another few lines to take in some of the May traditions that no doubt he has been talking about. So we'll sing it, will we now? Yeah. Oh, and I have another one joining me. Hold on till I move over a little bit. Hop up so. So this is Nelly beside me.
Hiya, Nelly. You're very welcome.
And Nan. And now
Hi, Nan.
Eppie, give a wave there, Nan. Give a wave, Eppie, at the back there. Yeah, all right.
Right, good luck, everyone.
Turn this way a tiny bit. You ready? Good morrow, fair yarrow, and thrice good morrow to thee. I hope that by this time tomorrow thou wilt show my true love to me. The yarrow I picked by the roadside, its little white blossoms so fine. I'll pick them all off as I count them, but stop when I get up to 9. I'll place you under my pillow, in hopes that tonight I will see a young man appear in my dreams that will be a true lover to me. Good morrow, fair yarrow, and thrice good morrow to thee. I hope that by this time tomorrow thy will show my true love to me. Tell me now tell me now of his appearance, the colour of my true love's hair. His eyes do they sparkle like diamonds, and what are the clothes that he wears? I'll meet him one day at the market, and when his face I will see, straightway I will know that this young man will be a true lover to me. Good morrow, fair yarrow, and thrice good morrow to thee. I hope that by this time tomorrow thy will show my true love to me. Tomorrow is Bealtaine and May Day, our faces will wash in May dew, while flowers will place on the doorstep to welcome the summer anew. The May bush will cover with eggshells, with primrose and daisies galore. We'll banish bad luck from our houses, and good luck we'll have evermore. Good morrow, fair yarrow, and thrice good morrow to thee. I hope that by this time tomorrow thy will show my true love to me.
On behalf of everyone, a big bull of us.
Oh, thank you. We'll slip off here and
I'd say, yeah, I'd
say good luck as well. So thanks a million.
Thanks, Eileen.
That was something new for you folks, wasn't it?
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Do you want to ask me anything at all? Or?
I think Steve's just muted everybody to say.
I don't care. What did you do for that?
All right, Neve, maybe you can mute
Yes,
everybody again. All right, Michael, do you have... Michael, you're back, are you?
Yeah, I am.
You have time for a couple of questions, comments?
Yeah, I do. Of course I can. Yeah.
All right, no, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. All right, so let me scroll back just here a wee bit. That was a brilliant way to finish. Good job. All right.
See someone I know, Gory.
I see Owen. All right. I think it was just in relation to one of the videos. I think Shane commented, he said he loved how the bad luck could be traced back to an event 5 years ago.
Jesus, yeah. Oh, crazy. We can go back to 1798 here in Wexford very easily. That's like,
yeah. And then Jim was delighted because he doesn't have to paint now for the next 3 weeks. He can tell the wife he doesn't need to paint to do any painting. Jorgen came on and was asking about, is the Lonely Maypole in Limerick in Rathkeel by any chance?
God, I don't know. I don't, because there were around the country. I don't know whether I didn't know. I knew of one down in Cork. There could be one down in Maypole down in Limerick. Is there one there in the Midlands up around Mount Rat somewhere? I think I've seen one over the years. I think there was one. I'm sure there would have been where there would have been towns rather than out in the country. There would have been maybe in a town, maybe a garrison town as well. I don't know. I haven't done any work on that.
Okay. Question, and I don't know if you have it, and I'm sure you probably do, but Ger Mullally would love to get maybe a clip. Do you have a clip at all you could share from Newfoundland?
Oh, just loads of it, lads. Christ, no. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Maybe we'll save that for another night.
I'll tell you what I done. When I was over there, we did a massive collection. Aileen did a whole album of Wexford Newfoundland songs, traditional songs were airs that were lost in Wexford but found, or lost in Ireland and found over in Newfoundland, singers singing them, or in archives over there. Archives are amazing, you know, still, you know, just when we're through the internet. But I have a massive collection. I've got a good bit online. If you go to my Facebook page is there, but you'll have to scroll back or maybe go through videos. If you go through the YouTube page, like probably we don't have proper broadband, so money's slowly getting around, and we don't have that much time because we're flat out busy. So, but I'm trying to get all the Newfoundland material up. There's probably about 20 files up already. RTE did a feature as well. If you type in Michael Fortune Newfoundland RTE, you get a link to some of the stuff there. But I have a whole collection that I'm ready to launch, and just give me a shout and I'll do a talk on it for you. No bother.
All right, that'd be brilliant. Carmel was just asking if it's recorded, and just for anybody that doesn't know, the whole thing tonight's going to be recorded. It'll be loaded up onto YouTube in the next couple of days. So, Anne's coming in just looks like from Germany. A lot seems to be similar to Easter traditions in Germany. The eggs in the bush, the water things, bonfires for the night before the 1st of May, very strong in East Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't believe it, Connor. I kind of find it, I love going into classrooms. We go into classrooms with work we do with heritage in schools, or into classrooms with local authorities, and there'll be kids there now, and their parents are, Polish parents, both Polish parents, and the kids may be born there, and we kind of assume that they don't have, sometimes we can just assume they're all these Irish traditions, and I love going in, like there's so many similarities, like even around Christmas, like we have a lovely tradition, and I'm sure Owen there would have it as well, where you'd keep a piece of straw in your purse or your phone for good luck. People would keep it, right? But in Poland, they keep a piece of the carp or a bit of the fish, the scale of the fish that they eat on Christmas Eve, in their purse for the same purpose. So I always love going in and pointing out the similarities rather than the differences. Polish straw boys, we see the fellas down in Kerry there for the wren boys, or traditionally would have been for weddings, with the straw masks and the straw skirts. Pockets of Poland is dressed identical, you know. We go going at Easter here at Easter with little aprons and little things with collecting guggen for eggs, to call it. Faded away too, but some people still do it. Not that popular, but still this done. You dress up, but sure, it's identical to what goes on in Finland and Sweden. So, you know, mad, loads of European crossover, yeah.
Michael, what we'll do is Liam will actually be able to copy and paste these to you. Maybe you'll follow up with some more people direct too, because like you say, you know, all of this is an opportunity for you to get some more feedback and things too. But what I'll do, if you don't mind, is I'll actually just finish up with just the rest of the week then. All right. So just tomorrow night we have Death in the Hills, the shooting of Walsh and Quinn by Owen Walsh. Thursday, my friend Mike Kennedy will be profiling Charlie Dalton. On Friday, Rosaline Durkin will be talking about Wicklow's Holy Wells. And on Saturday, we have Dr. Dennis Shine and a talk entitled Carrick, an enigmatic Anglo-Norman treasure. So, all right, Michael, well, come here. Thanks on behalf of everybody. Thanks a million.
See you, let's take care, Sloan.
All right, Sloan.
Let's do it in the mirror in the room. It's probably easier to look at it. Okay. I've done it earlier. The nighttime topics.
I gotta do is shine one mirror.
Probably want to go lie down.
Catch that one mirror.
Yeah.
When you have to catch the mirror,
1.5.
look at this mirror. You have to look at this mirror and try to find this mirror.
Yeah.